guys. Not going to show you my head today, not at this stage. The words wreck of the Hesperus come to mind, but that's what happens when you sleep in a swag in the New South Wales outback, Gunnedah. Well, today's a special edition of Chericota, the adventures of Chericota. We're off to Kitchener Park, named after Lord Kitchener, the hero of Khartoum, Tel El Kabir.
Turn left towards Henry Street, then turn right.
And we're going to see the place where Harry jumped the horse. Harry Morant.
Take the next right towards Henry Street, then turn left onto Henry Street.
Okay.
Take the next left onto Henry Street, then turn left onto Bloomfield Street.
Okay, let me turn left all the time. Yeah, so there is apparently his name is mentioned at Kitchener Park, which is a bit ironic because Kitchener would have hated him. But that's the card.
Take the next left onto Bloomfield Street.
That's the cards that history plays, isn't it? Because I think George Whitton is buried in Brisbane alongside Kitchener Road. He hated Kitchener.
In 400 metres, turn
right
old
school.
Wentworth Street.
That would have been there when the Breaker rode into town with his pay packet, off to pub to tell some tall stories, as he was prone to do. I think this might even be it. I can see like a rugby field. These heathens up here that don't know about Aussie rules play that stupid game where they all put their hands up each other's shorts around their necks and that.
Take the next right onto Wentworth Street, then your destination will be on the right.
I've never been a fan of rugby. I don't understand it. Anyway, I get a bit of petrol and then off to Tamworth. Shit. Oh, no. Those gates are closed, but hopefully it's open on the other side. Oh, no.
Your destination is on the right.
Yeah, there we go. Now I better do this stupid curb reverse parking. Right? I didn't realise it was law. I thought they just did it to be polite or to be different. They park rear end to curb. Right. It's just on 7 AM in Gunnedah. Knowing I've got quite a drive ahead of me, I was up as soon as I could. Had quite a good night's sleep actually. I got this rug, did I tell you? In Coolamon. With just the ideal warmth for the swag. Yeah, there was a bit of pitter-patter of rain overnight. Spitting, not raining. The koala capital of the world. See that kid on one of those stupid electric scooters? Here's Kitchener Park. Kitchener Park. Yeah, this is something I've noticed, is the amount of young people, sound like an old fogey, that wear all black and hoodies. Those fleece-lined hoodies, like it's hot up here, you know, all along the way. I've seen these idiots in fleece-lined hoodies riding those stupid electric scooters. I don't get it. No, I don't have to get it. So where would the... So it was somewhere here that the breaker jumped the horse.
Pitch dark, not even a moon, couldn't see a thing. But a bet is a bet, and £50 is a hell of a lot of money. Mind you, I'd had a few drinks. Quite a few drinks. Anyway, there's the fence. Cast iron. 7 foot high. Spikes on the top, you know the kind. It was so dark I couldn't even see it, so we put some candles right on the top.
And you cleared it?
You've heard it before.
You've all heard it before.
Yes, I cleared it, and I won the bet. I paid off all my debts in, where the hell was it?
Gunnedah.
Gunnedah, thank you very much.
Apparently. And somewhere in here is referencing his name. We'd have to find it. Okay. We'll go for a wander around the park. 7 foot high, he said. And I'll show you guys the clip. I think I might have seen quite a big oval. I'd say that these are fair-sized games of rugby they play, with all that seating, bleachers, the Americans call it. Oh, man. Because I think there's like a little ticket box over there. Already quite warm in Gunnedah. I'm in shorts today. Once upon a time I was too embarrassed to wear shorts. I was real, as a kid, fixated with my looks. What people might think of me. That's out the window. As I said, my legs are practically translucent, but that doesn't matter. So I reckon this is the monument here with their names. Actually, I could drive through. I'll do that. I'll find the sign for his name and do that. But having a look here, the old abandoned tennis courts. See a lot of them these days in country areas. Oh, here we go. Kitchener Park. This is called Breaker Morant Drive. Acknowledges Major Lenihan, commanding officer of the Bushveld Carbineers. Now, I wasn't sure if it was Gunnedah or Tenterfield that Lenihan, Major Lenihan, was from. He must be from Gunnedah. If you watched the Boer War, the Bushveld Carbineers series, you would have seen Lenihan features in quite a few of the early episodes, but I think they transferred him out, or he left or something, because he was hopelessly inadequate for the job. I can't see Morant's name as being from this district that served, but he didn't enrol here. He enrolled in South Australia. So this is called Breaker Morant Drive. Okay. Oh, here we go. Look at this. This is what we wanted. Only physical evidence, really, of Breaker and the lady in the shop. And the information centre didn't really focus on this. You know, it says, beautiful lettering, Morant, born in Devon, was a breaker. Yeah, he worked at Pallaming Station, right? During the 1890s. Legend records that he rode horses over the jumps at Kitchener Park. This is Kitchener Park. Among them the Rattler, owned by Pritchard. The Rattler was broken in and he held the Australian high jump record. I didn't know that Kitchener had a reference to Broome. What the hell's Broome got to do with it? Okay. That's as good as it gets for Gunnedah and the legend of the Breaker.
Harry Morant was a friend I had in the years long passed away, a chivalrous, wild and reckless lad, a knight born out of his day, full of romance and void of fears with a love of the world's applause. He should have been one of the cavaliers who fought in King Charles's cause. He loved a girl and he loved a horse, and he never let down a friend, and reckless he was, but he rode his course with courage up to the end. Breaker Morant was the name he earned, for no bucking horse could throw this Englishman who had lived and learned as much as the bushmen know. Many a mile have we crossed together out where the great plains lie, to the clink of bit and the creak of leather, Harry Morant and I. Time and again we would challenge fate with some wild and reckless dare, shoving some green colt over a gate, as though with a neck to spare. At times in a wilder mood than most we would face them at naked wire, trusting the sight of a giddier post would lift them a half-foot higher. And once we galloped a steeplechase for a bet, 'twas a short half-mile, or one jump only the stiffest place in a fence of the old bush style. A barrier built of blue gum rails as thick as a man's thigh, and mortised into the posts, no nails, unbreakable, 4 feet high. Since both our horses were young and green and had never jumped or raced, were we men who had tired of this earthly scene, we could scarce have been better placed. "Off!" cried the Breaker, and off we went, and he stole a length of lead. Over the neck of the grey I bent, and we charged the fence full speed. The brown horse slowed and tried to swerve, but his rider with master hand and flaming courage and iron nerve made him lift and leap and land. He rapped it hard with every foot and was nearly down on his nose. Then I spurred the grey and followed suit, and praise to the gods, he rose. He carried a splinter with both his knees, and hind leg left some skin, but we caught them up at the Wilga trees, sitting down for the short run in. The grey was game and he carried on, but the brown had a bit to spare. The post was past, my pound was gone, and a laugh was all my share. The Breaker is sleeping in some far place where the Boer War heroes lie, and we'll meet no more in a steeplechase, Harry Morant and I.
So, quite happy with that actually. That's better than I thought. And I'm confusing Kitchener Park with the Poet's Way. I thought maybe they removed Morant's name from the Poet's Way, but that's the sign that I saw. Breaker Morant Drive on Kitchener Park. Of interest is the station he worked on, can't remember what it was called. It was back there on the sign, and the lady mentioned it. Whether it was sheep or cattle around here. Could be either, because it's very rich, this soil. But yeah, it'd be fantastic to go out to that sheep station. We'll call it a sheep station, where he worked. If you remember, when I went to the tourist centre in Talbot, told them I was looking for any evidence of Captain Salmon. They said, we'll get back to you. And they rang me and said, we've spoken to the owner of the Salmon homestead. If you'd like to go out and visit, he would be open to that. Wouldn't that be fantastic if that little fella? Wouldn't that be fantastic if you could go out to the old working station, if it's still there, and see where the roustabouts used to eat and sleep, where the old Breaker Hattie would have been sitting on the veranda at night with the other workers, telling them tall tales of deeds that he'd done and fights he'd won and money he'd squandered, drinks he had, women he screwed, all that stuff that he was prone to do. He was a big noter. Alright, so let's get some petrol and then get back, head towards Tamworth.
Makey's Corp, the 5th of November 1901. Courage, brothers, no surrender. Quote, on the 4th of November we crossed the Scurvyberg and pitched our bivouacs on the Freiheit side. News had come into camp of a party of Boers from 100 to 150, remaining for the night in one of the few unburnt farms near Makatosh Corp. It was planned that the left half, the 5th Victorian Mounted Rifles, should leave at 10:30, the right half with the guns and Garrett's Australasians at 1 a.m. While still a mile or more from our objective, our guide, a member of the famous Natal Volunteer Composite Regiment, had suggested a visit of inspection to the scene of our attack. Mr. Crisp, acting captain of F Company, was sent for and told there might possibly be a house, Bedros Farm, standing with 4 or 5 Boers in it, and ordered to advance an attack with 20 men. This number, allowing for horse holders, gave him 15 fighting men. On handing over horses, a slight dispute occurred. The upshot was that Cowhey and Harrison advanced with the others. The uneasy whinnies of the horses, which were left halfway, were answered by others that were loose. Possibly the noise was heard within the house. The handful of men advanced in a frontal attack well extended. Crisp, as brave as he was prudent, led his men, revolver in hand. Near the wall in front of the house, the advance stumbled upon men sleeping among saddles and equipment. These were ordered to "hands up," which they did promptly, but with quite an unnecessary amount of noise. To our disgust, they were found to be not Dutchies, but their black scouts. When the front and one side of the house had been surrounded, we poured a heavy fire through the doors and windows. The challenge to the natives had been as good as an outpost to the 60-odd Boers inside the house, and instantly they had quitted it for the garden. Some got away by the dongas, some amongst the trees in half a dozen directions, in every state of dress and undress, some armed, some unarmed. A few ponies had been kept saddled in the garden, ready for an emergency. The rattle of their hoofs could be heard distinctly breaking the echoes. Others manfully stood their ground, shrouded in the deep gloom of the garden or hidden in the shadows of the outhouses. They poured in a heavy and constant fire upon our men in the open and exposed to view. Those Boers in front of the house and nearest to hand were compelled to surrender, and soon we had a little batch of prisoners, 13 whites and a dozen natives. One prisoner, an aged man, was ordered to tell his countrymen to surrender. Their answer, for men taken by surprise and in ignorance of the actual number against them, was the bold one: "Courage, brothers, no surrender!" Crisp and his party worked round the right flank in the face of fierce fire from the bushes. Near the veranda, Crisp fell with 2 huge holes in his body, but laying moaning and semi-conscious for nearly 15 minutes, until death put a seal upon his gallant career. The Boers made a dash for his body and hastily looted it. Near him, Corhi, shot in the stomach. Poor fellow, he died in terrible agony. Harrison was also killed hereabouts, and like the others was shot in the body. Love, who had the temerity to thrust his rifle through a window and fire twice, was at last shot on the wrist, and Clark got a nasty wound in the shoulder. On the other side of the house, McCallum received a bullet through the lungs. Fierce fighting went on in the garden. A sergeant and a Boer were trying to take the other prisoner. "Hands up," said the Dutchman, raising his Mauser to his shoulder. "Hands up," retorted the Victorian, firing from the hip. The Boer dropped dying with a ghastly wound to his stomach. Another of the Victorian mounted rifles was searching for Boers among the bushes when he heard a rustle and he looked back. Wheeling instantly, he fired and dropped a Boer who was stalking him through the shoulder. 2 other Boers were killed. No one knows exactly how, and the resistance round the house died down. Then came the reinforcements. Weakened by 30 or 40 sent to another farm, with daybreak shots were fired from the ridge on the left, so outposts were sent out. Then the work of systematic destruction was entered upon. Quantities of first-class English saddles were found with abundance of gear, Enfields and Mausers, bandoliers, pom-pom shells, blankets and provisions of every kind, scented soap and towels, such as no private is furnished with, wire cutters, revolvers, glasses, tea and sugar, silver flasks and whisky, the miscellaneous loot of a score of British disasters. Some of it was carried away, but the house was set on fire and most of the loot thrown back into the flames. Upwards of 100 saddles were thus carried off or burnt. These were probably Goff's, the disaster at Blood River Poort, but we also found rifles and bandoliers from Wilmensrust and Middelkraal. About 4:30, the Boers, strongly reinforced, made a counter-attack. We'd collected 100 head of cattle, about 150 of the best horses in South Africa, and from 3,000 to 4,000 sheep. By the utmost efforts of the horse guards, who were constantly exposed to a heavy, close-range fire, not more than 30 or 40 of the horses were recaptured. The work of destruction was necessarily abandoned, as the house lay in the centre of an amphitheatre and unsuitable for defence without big guns. We have a saying that 1 Boer seen means 3 to 7 unseen, and their unusual boldness and neglect of cover compels the conclusion that they were present in strong numbers. Our final retirement was effected with the aid of Garrett's Australasians. The last we saw of our friends the enemy was as they sniped Garrett's men, who were in the rear from the high ridge. The right half had taken up a position along the line of retreat, and the contour of the country had been judged highly unsuitable for a near approach of the guns. It was not until we discussed the attack with our prisoners that we learnt the extent of our good fortune. They belonged, they told us, to Boerta's Flying Raiders, each man owning 6 horses and the very best of saddlery. They were a band of broken and desperate men with little hope from surrender, and less to lose if they died fighting. Justly they held themselves to be the scourge of the border, and rated themselves as each the equal of 5 mounted khakis. Most of them were notorious oath-breakers. A meeting had been held at the farm the previous evening, attended by over 150 Boers. Of these, 80 or 90 had quitted it at 1 a.m. to obtain orders for the following day. At 3 we had attacked over 60 well-armed and desperate men, with 16 Victorians who had borne the brunt of the fighting, supported when the house was captured by 48 more. Many had escaped us, it's true, but the real wonder is that we ourselves had escaped. Not only had we done so, however, but we had in addition hampered the mobility of the flower of Botha's army, and dealt a Boer a blow that will shake his sense of security for many a long night to come.
Right, so this one's quite easy to find. I'm in Tamworth, the capital of country music in Australia. Though it's a huge tourist attraction. I would rather have my fingernails pulled with pliers than listen to country music, but that's me. Certainly, I don't mind a bit of Dolly Parton, and there's a couple of songs actually I quite like, which are country songs, so I shouldn't be too harsh. But anyway, this episode is for some of you that may be train station enthusiasts, because we're at Tamworth train station, and very tropical now. I've seen houses on stilts. The old Tamworth Hotel, I love that colour combination, the green and the tan, you know. For your traveller, got off the train and rushed over for a few, I don't think they call them pots here, ponies or something, schooners. But yeah, I'm in, starting to feel like the tropics now. Haven't seen any termite mounds, but that wouldn't be far off. The soil is very rich and red. It's real cattle country. Well, I was driving out of Gunnedah. I think they were Wagyu built beef cattle I saw. Made me think that the Breaker was probably working on a cattle station. But anyway, here we are at the Boer War monument. Now apparently it used to be looking down Brisbane Street. That's Brisbane Street there. The Lion was looking at Brisbane Street, looking down Brisbane Street, but it was relocated here in the 1920s. Was opened in 1903, I think. About 2,000 people witnessed it being opened. Let's have a look at what it should tell us. And Bunnings restored it in 2012. Beautiful old fountain opened by the mayor, erected by the citizens to commemorate the services of those men from Tamworth who fought for the Empire in the South African War. And there's the lion with the shield. Sun's in my eyes. He's got his front paw on top of that shield, and around the base they look like lions' faces. I'd say it'd be a long time since any water ran through it. Magnificent marble. Beautiful. Crafted, beautifully crafted. A little low on detail. Now we've got one more side to see. Yeah, so there's no detail about who the men were, what were their names. Any casualties? What about battle names? Oh, that's brilliant. Renostekop, Noodgedacht. There's no details, it's just to remember the men, or the citizens and the men who volunteered to go all the way from here to South Africa. Man, bloody hell, it's a long way. Although Tamworth is surrounded by, you can just see them over the ridge there, by mountains that are dark and blue in the distance. They look a bit like the Zoutpansberg. Yeah. And there, of course, is the railway station. I'll walk up there and have a little look. Oh, some of you might be railway station enthusiasts as well as Boer War fans. Why not? Some of you might have seen the episode when I was in Petersburg. When Louis Trichardt went to the train station at Louis Trichardt with Charles. And that's where the bushveld carbineers were loaded onto the train to be sent down to be summarily executed, shot. So in the film, just to go back to that for a moment, you would think that none of them knew each other. That Major Lenihan, I think he recruited Morant and the others and Witten down in Cape Town. I think they ran into Lenihan and he said, we're putting together this unit up in the northern Transvaal and we need guys that can ride and shoot. Then in the movie, when they're introduced to Major Thomas, their defence lawyer, and they sort of say, well, you know, what's your experience? And he says, oh, well, I'm a, country law, I do wills and testimonies. It's like they don't know him, but according to Wikipedia, Major Thomas travelled from Tenterfield down to Sydney for a hunt that Breaker Morant was on that hunt. So they probably knew each other. And as far as Lenihan goes, well, if he was from Gunnedah, I think it said in Wikipedia that Morant knew Major Lenihan from Gunnedah. I should have followed up Lenihan a bit more. I didn't realise until I was leaving town that he was from, I thought he was from Tenterfield, to be honest, but so what would that have meant anyway? I could have walked around the cemetery, but I don't think he stayed in Gunnedah. Witten makes mention in that letter that he wrote to Major Thomas years after the event that he'd seen Lenihan somewhere and the guy still owed him money. So anyway, that's enough on Lenihan. So I think these guys all knew each other more or less. Anyway, I love this colour scheme, sort of a dusty pale pink with the smart, beautiful tan colours of a country railway station. Well, look at these. These are gorgeous. What about you guys that are into Australian native plants? This is gorgeous. The bottle brush. Hey, look at the pinks. The dusty pink. I've planted one of these down at our place. It'll never get this big in my lifetime. But they're magnificent. That's your Australian natives. Well, any of you fans that are both into Australian native plants, train stations and Boer War monuments, put your hand up, leave me a message. I can't get enough of them. Jetty, can't get enough of them. More combinations, please. So they've got another bottle brush there. And here's the red one. We got one of these at home. The red one, but I love that pink. Alright, we're signing off for the moment. We're on to Armidale next.